Hey, in this video, we're going to go over how you can connect your Fireflies account to Utari so that you can analyze your sales calls automatically. So we actually made another video on how to do this with Fathom. So this is kind of like a part 2, specifically talking about Fireflies. So obviously you're going to need a Utari account and you're also going to need your Fireflies account as well. Now, once you have your Utari account, what we're going to do is create a new worker just by clicking on this plus icon and click new worker. Once you click on new worker, you'll have the worker here and you can change the name, give it whatever name you want. But what we want to do is go into the integrations area. Inside of the integrations, we're going to go to browse apps. And what we're going to search for is Fireflies. You're going to click on add and you're going to click on create new connection. Once you click on create new connection, you're going to give it a name and then you're going to find your API key that lives inside of Fireflies. So you need to go into your Fireflies account. You need to go to settings here, and then you need to go to developer settings on the left-hand side. Once you're here, you'll see your API key, and all you have to do is copy that API key, and you're going to pop that back into Utari here. And you're going to enter it in 2 places. So the API key here and the API key here. You're going to click on connect, and what that's going to do is it's going to add the different Fireflies tools into this particular Utari worker, which means that when you start a chat, for example, you can ask that Utari worker to find sales calls, for example, and it can do so. Just to give you an example, I can click on start chat and say, can you please find me the most recent call and give me a summary? And if I click enter, it should use the Fireflies integration that is on side of this worker here. So you'll see it's discovering that Fireflies integration. You see here it's looking for the different tools. So Fireflies get transcript by ID. And now it's actually using these tools to then provide me that most recent call, as well as giving me a summary of that most recent call. So you'll see here the summary. There we go. Boom. Perfect. So now, how do we actually automate this process? So what I'm going to do is hop back into our worker here, and I'll go to triggers here. I'm going to click on create new trigger. And what we want to do is essentially create a webhook trigger, which means that every time that a call is complete, we actually want to trigger Utari to actually go do something. So in this case, we'll select the new worker that we just created, and we're going to give it a name. So we'll say Fireflies agent, and you can give it a description if you want. I'm going to turn off require secret token. You can leave this on if you actually want it to specify what Fireflies account is actually pulling in. But for now, I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to click on configure prompt. And this prompting area is where you actually give the agent instructions or the worker instructions. So essentially you can say, please analyze, every call that comes in by a particular title, let's say, or please analyze every single call that comes in and extract the key details. Whatever you want, you would enter your agent instructions here. You would also want to make sure that you provide the payload. So if you do this naming convention, which is bracket payload, you would include that. So let's just say that I wanted this to say, can you please analyze, and this is spelled wrong, the sales call that comes in from the payload and extract the most recent details. Obviously, you can get really, pretty granular with your instructions here. In this case, I'm keeping it really simple. I'll add some other prompt instructions that I've tested in the past that works really well down below. But essentially, you literally just give the instructions. So the one thing I did find that works really well in most cases is if you give it an order of operations. So we had one client or customer who wanted to analyze some sales calls and then maybe send it into Slack. So by telling the agent that order of operation is really important. So you can say, please analyze the call and then send to Slack, and send it to the Slack channel. There's some other things that you can do, but really, it's really important that you guide and inform the agent with your prompt instructions. Also giving it, not only giving it the context, but also giving it the order of operations, also letting it know what level of access or tools or integrations does it have access to. That will help make sure that the agent, triggers and is doing things reliably over time. So again, have your prompt here. Feel free to reach out to us at hey@utari.ai. and we can look at your prompt if you want to just provide it. We can give you some tips, but just like I said, just make sure that you're just giving the best guidance possible, and you'll be pretty good to go. Also include the payload here, which will then basically pull all the data from Fireflies inside of this prompt template so that the agent actually has reference to that information. You can also specify, let's say that you wanted a particular field inside of the payload. You can also do like, payload.title or something, right? But in most cases, you would just include the entire payload, which means every single item from Fireflies, as that call is complete, will go inside of the prompt instructions here. All right, cool. So now after that, we will click on create trigger. And once we create that trigger, we're going to get a webhook URL. And this is the webhook URL that we're going to provide inside of Fireflies. So we're going to go back into Fireflies, and what we're going to do is just pop in that URL that Utari provides us. And also just make sure that you have this selected where it says transcription completed. Trigger when transcription is completed, which means that every single time that that transcription is complete, it's going to call this URL, which will then trigger Utari to then run that particular webhook agent, right? And the Fireflies agent is going to go and use the prompt instructions that you provided it to actually go and do whatever you want it to do. Make sure that if you, for example, wanted it to go into Slack, that you have that Slack integration enabled on that worker. Otherwise, it's not going to do so. Once you have that, it's pretty much good to go. Just click on save. And now as calls are complete, it's going to trigger Utari, and it's going to go inside of the worker. The worker is going to analyze it and do whatever you ask it to do. And that's pretty much all you have to do. Once you do have this set up, I will say, if you go into triggers here and you go to Fireflies agent, you will see all of the recent runs here, and the conversations or the analyzations or anything that has to do with that particular webhook trigger are going to show up here. So if you think it's not running, most cases it is. It's just running inside of the most recent runs, and then you'll have the list that you can select from. This is also an area where you can kind of just preview everything. You can disable the agent if you don't want it to run on that webhook anymore, or edit or delete, etc. So that's essentially how you're able to set up your Fireflies account to Utari. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us, hey@utari.ai, or join our exclusive Telegram support group where you can get really fast response times, as well as give us feedback or any other ideas that you have to make Utari better.